Hey, what's up? So today I'm going to be doing an analysis of a scene in the End of Evangelion. This scene is the scene where Gendo and Fuyutsuki are talking to Seele, and it's a kind of confusing scene, honestly. And I think a lot of people will watch that scene and not know what the hell they're even talking about. So, without further ado, let's just jump right into that scene and let's watch it first. Let's see if I can pull this off seamlessly.
約束の時が来た。ロンギヌスの槍を失った今、リリスによる保管はできん。唯一、リリスの分身たるエヴァ諸号機による遂行を願うぞ。
ゼーレのシナリオとは違いますが、
人はエヴァを生み出すためにその存在があったのです。
人は新たな世界へと進むべきなのです。
Alright, so already this scene is really confusing, like Seele is lamenting how they don't have the Lance of Longinus, so they can't use Lilith to implement human instrumentality. So and like it's really confusing as to what the hell they're talking about or arguing about. So human instrumentality, I'm just going to assume that everyone knows what human instrumentality basically is, but I'll just give a very brief, succinct way of putting it. It is an artificial evolution of all of humanity into a singular being. So now, when I first saw this scene and saw End of Evangelion, I was confused as hell. Because it wasn't really clear what Third Impact was or what human instrumentality was and how it all relates together. Um, Now, it seems that how you go about human instrumentality doesn't have to be exactly the same. So, and we saw something like that in Rebuild of Evangelion, which kind of brought to light other possible ways of initiating human instrumentality. In this case, they are arguing over how to do it. So it seems like for whatever reason, and it's not really clear. Gendo doesn't want to do human instrumentality without Lilith, whereas Seele wants to do it without Lilith because they feel like they can't do it with Lilith without the Lance of Longinus. So if you remember, the Lance of Longinus is on the moon right now because they launched it at an angel to destroy it in outer space. So let's continue on and see what the hell they're talking about.
そのためのエヴァシリーズです。
Okay, so here it says Gendo seems to be okay with just using the Ava series to initiate human instrumentality.
我らは人の形を
We needn't abandon our human form in order to board Ava's ark. Like, this seems like a very confusing thing to say. Now, in all fairness, this could be just not a great translation. In fact, I know for a fact that there are some bad translations. Or very like it's very difficult to translate the original Japanese into English for this thing because they're talking about very esoteric concepts that don't exist in reality. So how they say it in Japanese could be very difficult to translate into English. But here they're saying we needn't abandon our human form in order to board Ava's ark. So is he saying that we need to retain a human form in order to merge into one singularity? I'm not sure.
捨ててまでエヴァという名の箱舟に乗ることはない。これは通過儀式なのだ。閉塞した人類が再生するための。滅びの宿命は神聖の喜びでもある。神も人も全ての生命が死をもっている。
So he's talking about through death, God, man, and all life forms will at last become one. So if we assume this translation is accurate, it does answer sort of a question that I had before as to what happened to all the other animals during Third Impact, because it seemed like it only affected human beings. But here he's saying, God. Well, like, what is he talking about when he says God, though? Is he talking about Lilith? Is he talking about Adam? Who is he talking about when he's saying God? Man, we know what man is, and all life forms. I guess that includes amoebas and bacteria. will at last become one. So we're going to become one with amoebas, bacteria, monkeys, squirrels, dogs, cats, all living together. So I guess that's what that means.
やがて一つになるために
死は何も生みませんよ。
死は君たちに与えよ
All right, so here it becomes like a weird kind of thing, like Gendo getting on his high horse.
この人も全ての生命が死をもってやがて一つになるために
All right, so Gendo's saying death produces nothing. Like when I first saw this, I was like, dude, you're getting on your high horse about how death is really bad and shit like that. I got news for you. Gendo is the real antagonist of this entire show. So when I saw that, I was like, wow, you hypocrite. Like that's you're trying to get on your high horse talking about how death is so bad. Like you shot Ritsuku later on. By the way, there's super spoilers in this. Like, but I hope people understand. If you watch videos about Evangelion on YouTube, there's gonna be filled with spoilers. But anyway, um, yeah, like that always bothered me. How he's like talking about how like trying to speak about morality and how death produces nothing. Just what the hell is he even talking about? Like what are they talking about? So it seems like Seele wants to kill everyone in a third impact and then unite their souls together. But this is contradictory to what happens eventually anyway. Like because when everyone turns into LCL and then their souls, their red souls get collected together, it's not really clear if they're dying here. Although Shinji does talk about, how everyone deserves to die, you know. Um like I'm better off dead. Everyone's better off dead. And then later on he was like, you know what? Actually, no, no. Everyone, we need to return to our human forms. Like I don't know. It's Shinji's a very weak protagonist and very insecure. Um, but you could also chalk that up to Shinji being indecisive, him not understanding what he even wants. At first, he's angry and he just wants to kill everyone. So perhaps that is what happened. Perhaps everyone turning into LCL is death, but their soul survives and then is merged together inside of Rei. Um, so what they're exactly talking about, we could debate this forever. But what I really wanted to talk about is how human instrumentality is kind of like a chemical reaction. So let me get out of here for a second, and let me try to do this as seamlessly as possible without that infinity thing going on here. So there's a couple of ingredients, right, that we saw in Third Impact and End of Evangelion. So in End of Evangelion, the ingredients were the Lance of Longinus, freaky-looking Lilith, freaky-looking Eva Unit 1. Here's like a kind of a model of Adam in his embryonic form. This was shoved into Gendo's hand. And here we have a cool picture, fan art of the Eva series. So human instrumentality is like a chemical reaction. So what do I mean by that? In a chemical reaction, you can mix together different ingredients, so to speak, and you will have a reaction, but the outcome of the reaction depends on the ingredients that you use. So they have various different things. They will have reactants, or what they sometimes call reagents, and then they also have catalysts. So a catalyst in a chemical reaction is something that is used to speed up a chemical reaction, although in this case I'll just say initiate the reaction, but is not consumed in the reaction, meaning after a reaction's done, it remains the same. So to me, the Eva series are the catalysts of this reaction. Okay? Because they are not consumed in human instrumentality, in the reaction, but they initiate it. They get it going. And without the catalyst, it's not going to happen. Okay, in a chemical reaction, they say it speeds up. We're going to ignore that for my analogy. The other stuff is effectively consumed, because everything is just kind of merging into one. So you have Ava Unit 1 merging into Lilith, right? Merges into Lilith. Here you have Adam. Adam also merges into Lilith. And so does the Lance of Longinus, merging into Lilith. Let's get it merged into Lilith. There we go. But the Ava series does not. The Ava series is just kind of hanging around, biting the gold wings, the wings of light on Unit 1. It initiates the reaction, but it doesn't get consumed in it. So it doesn't partake in the reaction. So, but this scenario that they were talking about before, um, it could have happened differently. So initially, it seemed like Seele was convinced that they couldn't use Lilith, so they had to get rid of Lilith. They had to get rid of well, they didn't have the Lance of Longinus. They would have liked to use the Lance of Longinus, but they couldn't use that, and they couldn't use Lilith. So they wanted to initiate Third Impact using only Ava Unit 1 and presumably Adam, although this is not really clear. But I don't know how you do Third Impact, aka human instrumentality, without Adam. You need to have at least some godlike being involved. So you have Ava Unit 1 and the Ava series. It seems like if they come into contact with each other, that alone would have done it. And maybe Adam too. Maybe Adam gets consumed in Ava Unit 1. And they would have been able to pull this off without the Lance of Longinus or without Lilith. Now, what would the outcome of that have been? We don't know because we never saw it. It seemed fortuitous that the Lance of Longinus conveniently returned back just through Shinji's will. Um, I guess his outrage in the manga. Actually, you do see Unit 1 fighting the Ava series, but then Shinji, gets so mad. Uh, Unit 1 grows the wings of light, and that causes the Lance of Longinus to return, and then Third Impact proceeds, uh, whether Shinji likes it or not. And that seems to be like a thing here. Like once it's going, um, Shinji can't stop it. So the other thing that's initiating human instrumentality are is Seele, right? So they're doing a chant. They're like in Rebuild, they talk about like opening rites. There has to be opening rites before you initiate human instrumentality, and the opening rites are like a chant. It seems like so it's one thing to have everything together, but then you have to do some kind of like ooga booga chant to then get things moving, right? So to use the analogy, you could say that the analogy of this chant or these opening rites would be kind of putting all of the ingredients together in a beaker. The scientist putting all the ingredients together in a beaker. That act is the opening rite. Um, so it's kind of interesting how things would have been different. Maybe in this scenario, if we kind of backtrack a little bit, this would have resulted in the death of all human beings. And then it brings up the question, like, why was Gendo so opposed to this? Why didn't he want to do it this way? Why was he insistent on using Lilith? I think the reason why he was insistent on using Lilith it was because he had control of Rei. He wanted, like, he's been like kind of cultivating Rei to do his bidding, to be his, you know, obedient little doll, to do whatever he wants. And Rey was made from Lilith. And, it's not quite clear exactly what Rey is. She might have been a clone of both, Lilith and Yui, using genetic material from both. So that would have been advantageous for Gendo, so that he could then somehow control human instrumentality, assuming that Rey was complicit, which in the end she wasn't. Now, why did Gendo want to get rid of the Lance of Longinus, back in the previous episode during the series? Um, that's a little harder to say, I would say. um, it's not really clear why that was so problematic for Gendo. Maybe the lance uh, perhaps gave Seele more control over what was going on and how things would come about. Um, yeah, he seemed really concerned, and like it was a big deal for him to try and get rid of the lance. That's why he had Rey throw the lance at the angel, and then he used, the destruction of the angel as an excuse. Although, in all fairness, I don't know how you destroy that thing without the lance. But it also, did double duty to get rid of the lance for Gendo. I don't know. I don't know why he was so insistent on getting rid of the lance, or why that was such a big problem for him. But it seemed like the thing that they all agreed on was, they needed to use the Ava series, and they needed to use Ava Unit 1. Um, and Adam was, just currently injected into Gendo's hand in a freaky, bizarre way. So this is all about playing God, and like men wanting more and more power, and like really um, sacrilegious ways, ungodly ways, things that men are not supposed to do. But I hope I like at least sparked a little bit of a conversation, or a little bit of insight into exactly what that scene was about and what they were talking about, and their disagreement. To this day, I don't fully understand that scene, but you know, hopefully at least my kind of chemical reaction analogy helps some people understand that you can have different kinds of human instrumentality projects, and they can go about different ways, and the outcomes would have been different. How they would be different, we have no idea. All we know is what happened in End of Evangelion, and also what happened in Rebuild. But that's a story for another day. All right, guys. See you later.